The story you are about to hear is a compilation of documented true facts featuring historical characters, events, or places that has played a role in shaping history. Please sit back and listen as I recite this narrative for you. Jake Bird was an American self-confessed serial killer who was tried and executed for the axe murders and confessed to committing at least 44 murders during his travels across the country. The 45-year-old Bird was a transient who had been born in Louisiana in a location he could not remember. He left his home when he was 19 years old. He supported himself as a manual laborer and railroad gandy dancer who laid and maintained tracks. The work on the railroad kept him moving from place to place. It was an occupation that let him be able to stalk and murder women in the towns he visited. Bird seems to like one particular type of victim: white women. He particularly liked white women cowering in fear of him. That he had an extensive criminal record, including burglary and attempted murder, and had been incarcerated for a total of 31 years in Michigan, Iowa, and Utah. On October 30, 1949, Jake Bird breaks into the home of Bertha Claude and her daughter Beverly June Claude. Jake went around the back of the house and found an axe. He then stripped off all of his clothes and took the axe with him into the house. His confession stated that he entered the Claude residence through the unlocked back door to commit an easy burglary. At approximately 2:30 a.m., Bertha awoke to see Bird standing over her bed and let out a dreadful scream, alerting her daughter and several neighbors that trouble was afoot. Beverly rushed to her mother's bedside, only to find that Bird had bludgeoned Bertha with an axe. Beverly ran, but she didn't stand a chance against Bird. She was also found bludgeoned to death in their South 21st Street home. Neighbors contacted police, who were quick to arrive on the scene. As police approached the home, a barefoot African-American man raced through the back door and hopped several fences in an attempt to evade officers. Police gave chase, and to their luck, Bird was cornered by a particularly high fence. Bird pulled a knife out and began attacking the officers. 2 officers had to be taken to a local hospital to be treated for the non-fatal knife wounds caused by Bird. Once in custody, investigators began to unravel what had occurred at the Claude residence and why Bird had killed the 2 women. Bird told police that he had broken into the home to steal money for shoes. While he was prowling around for money in Bertha's bedroom, she awoke and grabbed the stranger. Bertha's daughter heard the struggle, and when Bird entered into the kitchen, she proceeded to try to fight him. Bird killed the 2 women during the altercations and ran when he heard the police. He said he attacked the officers only because he believed that they were fixing to shoot him. He managed to slash 2 of them, but was overpowered and was beaten into unconsciousness. He spent the next few days in the hospital. Police would later learn that this wasn't Bird's first run-in with the law. 15 years of his life were spent in various prisons around the country for crimes including burglary, murder, attempted murder, and assault. They had come to the realization that this was not a down-on-his-luck transient looking to grab a few dollars to buy shoes, and in the heat of the moment, ended up killing 2 women that they were dealing with. Bird was a cold and calculated killer. When he was ready to talk, Bird denied the charges, but his stance soon changed when it came out that police had found brain tissue in his trousers, and it would be hard to explain how that got there, so he admitted to the crime. After his conviction was announced, Bird was allowed to make a final statement. He spoke for 20 minutes, noting that his request to represent himself had been denied and that his own lawyers were against him. His trial lasted 2.5 days. Weighing heavily in the trial was the wanton murder of Beverly June Claude, who was bludgeoned to death when she came to her mother's defense. Blood and brain tissue from both victims were found on Bird's clothing, and his bloody fingerprints were found in the house and on the axe. His attorney tried to have his signed confession be inadmissible in court since it was obtained under duress. but the judge disagreed and admitted the confession into evidence. After 35 minutes of deliberation, Jake Bird was found guilty of first-degree murder and was sentenced to be hanged at the Washington State Penitentiary. Bird then said, "I'm putting the Jake Bird hex on all of you who had anything to do with my being punished. Mark my words, you will die before I do." Taken as just another idle threat by a murderer, the hex didn't get much notice. That is, until people started dying. The first to go was the judge who sentenced Bird to death. He died of a heart attack not long after the conviction. Next was Bird's defense lawyer, who also died of a heart attack. Then the police officer who recorded Bird's confession, he died of a heart attack too. Then another police officer who wrote an official report on Bird passed of a heart attack. Then one of Bird's prison guards died of a heart attack. And finally, the court's clerk died of pneumonia. Jake Bird outlived them all. The execution at the Washington State Penitentiary was scheduled for January 16, 1948, but Bird claimed he had committed 44 other murders, which he was willing to help the police solve. Washington Governor Monrad C. Walgreen granted him a 60-day reprieve. Police from other states interviewed Bird, and 11 murders were substantiated. He was knowledgeable enough about the 33 other murders to be considered a prime suspect. The interviews with Bird enabled the police departments of many states to declare many unsolved murders as solved. In addition to his Washington State murders, the transient Bird apparently had killed people in Florida, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Michigan, Nebraska, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Dakota, and Wisconsin. He mostly preyed on Caucasian women. Bird had dispatched his victims with an axe or hatchet. During his reprieve, Bird lodged an appeal, but a retrial was denied by the Washington State Supreme Court. His appeals to the federal courts, including 3 petitions to the United States Supreme Court, also were denied. Jake Bird was hanged on the morning of July 15, 1949 at 12:20 a.m. before 125 witnesses. He was buried in the prison cemetery identified only as convict number 21520. Although not formally educated, Bird gained a modicum of fame as a jailhouse lawyer, often arguing his own case before the court. His knowledge of the law, together with the help of people against the death penalty, enabled him to delay his execution a year and a half. Bird's case failed to capture the attention of the national press, even though he confessed to committing or being involved in at least 44 murders throughout the country. But history marks him as one of the nation's most prolific serial killer. Hey everyone! I just wanted to express how grateful I am that you took the time to listen to my narration. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I am Twisted Mind and please enjoy the rest of your day. Salamat!